let's get physical.
Well, welcome to the next episode of 6 Weeks to Wellness with your host, who you just heard from, Jan Fitzpatrick of inVibeHealth.com. Jan, let's get physical. Wait a minute. What are we talking about in this episode?
Well, how many times have you heard that you need to eat a healthy diet and have regular exercise routine?
A lot of times.
How many times have you ignored this advice?
Me?
And how did you feel?
Well, okay. We're going to get into that.
You ever wonder why?
Excellent. This is going to be a great topic. So let's break it down to the takeaways. What are you hoping that people take away from this episode, Jan?
Well, how does the food that you eat affect your energy? What kind of exercise do you need to do to have more energy? And how do you get started? What would you?
Okay.
And I think a question to ask yourself is, when we're talking about all of this, is what would you do if you had more energy every day?
Excellent question. That probably has a lot of answers, but so let's dig in. So yeah, let's talk about food and exercise a little bit. I finally dragged my lazy butt out for a nice walk in the fall weather this morning, and I felt much better. So let's talk about food though first. So talk to me about food. What obviously it's fuel. It's what my body is made of. But what do you talk about with your clients about food?
Well, food. We're talking about physical energy. And actually, food is energy. Food is supposed to be energizing. And to digest our food takes about 50% of our energy every day. So if we eat food that does not need as much digestion, that means that there's more energy for the things that we want to do. And one of the things that'll help us is to eat fresh food, unprocessed food, because that fresh food is more alkaline and it's more energizing, and there's more light energy in it, which is what helps us feel more, feels lighter, brighter.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but that actually makes really intuitive sense to me. But you're right, Jan. I mean, we seem to be, we have this weird knack as human beings, right, to engineer things that are artificial, and then we get really down that road. But doesn't it just make sense that if you're eating foods, real foods that your body evolved to digest, that you might actually work better than if you are eating foods that were engineered on an assembly line by a machine and are just not formulated in a way that your body evolved to digest, right? It's no wonder we're all putting on extra poundage, right?
Yeah, it's because in a fresh food, and I know I do cook my foods, I don't eat raw, but in that food is everything that it's needed to digest that food. So if you've ever put a tomato in the back of the refrigerator and kind of not looked at it for a while, and it's all mushy. It's not moldy, but it's all mushy. And what has happened is it's self-digested. It has everything in it to digest itself. So fruits, fresh vegetables, local if you can get them, greens, chard, kale. All of those are just wonderful and pretty easy to prepare as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I did years ago is I joined what's called a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture, and it really forces me to eat healthier because literally every week I get a big box of fresh vegetables and fruits delivered to me locally from a local farm that I own shares in. So it's like I own a little piece of the crop. So it's a great way to, if you need a little help to make yourself do it and you want to support a local farm, check out whether you have a local CSA. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah, and in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, where I live, we have a farmer's market every Saturday morning. And if you want to know what you should eat, just walk down that aisle.
Right.
And we also have a food co-op. So when things are not available, and we do mostly local when we can, and if you can't get there on Saturday morning or you rent out in the middle of the week, you can just go to the food co-op and find the same local wonderful produce that you can find at the farmer's market.
So depending where you live, there are options that can be convenient, can be fun, can really be incorporated into your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
This doesn't have to be a radical change to get some good healthy fruits and veggies into your body. And listen, as you said at the in the opening of this segment, Jan, we've heard this advice our entire lives. Yes. Perhaps it's time that we actually start putting it into action and taking it to heart, because you literally are taking it to heart, right? It's affecting your heart.
And it's all about baby steps. Just maybe add one green a day, or an apple, this time of year, an apple a day. Just try it. Just put it in instead of some other thing that's less healthy that you might grab.
There you go. It's an easy substitution. All right, so let's get to the other big one that we've been hearing our entire lives, which is all about movement, exercise. So you're fueling yourself with the food, but you're using that fuel to do something healthy for yourself. So let's talk exercise, and specifically what you recommend when you're working with your clients, with women who are 50 and over and are dealing with lots of change in their lives.
Well, it takes a whole lot more energy just to maintain, and it's true. If you don't use it, you don't lose it entirely, but it's a whole lot harder to get it back.
I hear you.
And one of the things that, like emotionally, that helps is once you exercise, well, first of all, you feel good because you got out there and you did it, like you said. And it also starts this endorphin thing in your brain that actually makes you feel better. And when we feel better, we tend to do a little bit more. So some of the things to look, there are all kinds of exercises to do. And some of the things to look for in those exercises are, do they address strength, flexibility, and balance? I mean, walking is probably the number one, because as you walk, you have different surfaces. It goes up and down. You have to pay attention. The flexibility is, you can't keep your body rigid when you walk. It's very uncomfortable if you do in any case.
That's right. That's right.
And it is the most basic thing that we do. Some of the other exercises that I know I have done and found extremely helpful for strength, flexibility, and balance are yoga and Pilates. I did aqua aerobics. I got my mom into aqua aerobics, which she just adores and loves. I have in the past played some sports like tennis. Will also help you for strength, flexibility, and balance.
So getting your body into motion, I mean, there's really something that everyone can do. I mean, it's playing around a little bit. It's testing things out. It's finding what feels right. I mean, some people may have injuries or disabilities, but all we have to do is look at some of the amazing people who have had major disabilities and are actually athletes. So where there's a will, there's a way. So part of it is really getting the will behind this and saying, hey, you know what? It's not a chore. I mean, that's the part I always have to overcome, is that my brain very easily will list it as a chore and forget that it feels great. That it's the exact opposite of a chore, that the minute you're doing 20 minutes of something as simple as walking, the benefits last for hours and hours and hours. I mean, so it's not a chore at all.
About 24 hours, actually. And what happens is, like taping all of this, or if I'm writing a blog, or I'm doing, just finances and paying bills, you're really focusing down for quite a long time. You need to get out of your head. You're so contracted when you do things like that. You now need to go out and exercise to get that balance and expand. So you feel not so tight.
Absolutely. So let's say someone's been neglecting some of these areas for a while. We get to this, how to get started, because inertia is a real thing. I mean, it's a real psychological thing, as well as Newton's old physical description of it. A body at rest tends to want to stay at rest. So how do you get a resting body into motion and get going?
Well, last winter was probably the biggest inertia thing I faced in my life. The weather was very cold.
We had horrible weather this
very snowy. You couldn't go out and walk. You could barely drive to the gym without putting your life at risk. So I kind of stayed home, made comfort food, gained those extra pounds. So when everything melted, I had to really work a lot harder. So how did I get started after that long winter? Basically, I started walking again. That was easy. Then, well, where do I walk? When do I walk? It's actually, like you said, is to schedule it into your day as part of your routine, is to say, this is my gift to myself. I get to walk into town. I get to walk around the lake. I get to have some fun. And as you exercise, and I know in the beginning it's difficult, but because it takes energy to exercise, and it's kind of that point at the very beginning where it takes energy, but it gives you energy. So you have to realize that, oh my goodness, I have to walk. But you have to remember how it feels afterwards.
Right. Exactly.
You have to write it down. You have to schedule it. It's making an appointment with and for yourself. Well,
and I think for a lot of people, if you're really struggling with that, finding someone to help you and be an accountability partner, a workout partner, a walking, because when you don't feel like getting out of bed to go take that walk, you also don't want to let the person you've committed to walking with down, so that's going to get you to show up and then get the benefits, and vice versa. They're going to have a down day and you're helping them out. Or working with a coach, who you're accountable to, who's going to ask you to report in once a day or something like that. So there's lots of ways you can do that to kind of use a little social oomph to
you class. I just watch a video on my own, and I can tell you from my experience, I can do a little bit at home, which I do every morning. Being in this really makes it a little better experience for me.
Yeah, that's always worked for me too in the past. I mean, I was very involved in martial arts, and being part of a gym, part of a class, part of a group that was training together always got me to show up, and showing up is half the deal, showing up for your walk, even if you walk only for 10 minutes, is better than not walking at all, right? So showing up is a big part of getting started.
And we're talking about stress, we're talking about overwhelm, we're talking about exhaustion. I have a yoga class that I've been in for 9 years, and the same people were sort of now in the last 2 or 3 years, it's the same 8 or 9 people that come and go in that class. So it also becomes a social event. We share what we're doing, we catch up with each other in the first 15 minutes of the class, and it actually is invigorating. It's calming. You feel like, oh, it's not just me, I'm not by myself. So that's also what exercise can do for you.
Exactly. So building these things in makes them, be rewarding in and of themselves, and not being a chore that you have to, I got to go work out, or I got to eat my veggies.
Yes.
Right? I mean, you really want to find a way to weave them in a way that it has built-in reward, not just doing what you should be doing, right? Well, this has been great, Jan. I mean, this is part of our 4-part series where we've been talking about how to move from that kind of rundown, exhausted feeling to being more energized and feeling alive in your life. So in this episode, we've hit on, how do the foods that you eat affect your energy. We've talked about exercise and how moving your body actually, causes you to more energized, even though you're burning energy. And then we've been talking about how to get started, how to get your body out of that inertia if you've been still for too long, and how to get rolling down the road here towards feeling more energized. So if you're enjoying this, if you're getting benefit out of it, and we certainly hope you are, then make sure that you're tuned into what Jan's doing here. And there's a very simple way to do that. Jan's giving away a copy of her Amazon.com book. Right below this video, there's a banner. Just click on it, and just by putting your name and email address in, you're going to get a copy of that ebook sent over to you. But you'll also then be on the notification list to hear about the upcoming episodes. And we are only partway through this series, so if you missed earlier episodes, you'll be able to find all those on Jan's blog. But, get on the notification list so you don't miss out on upcoming ones, because you might forget to come back to the blog, and that gives you a reminder coming right to you. So click the banner right below here and join us for the next episode in this whole series of how to move from exhausted to energized. So Jan, thanks so much for this great information, and I look forward to speaking to you again in our next episode.
Yeah, thanks for being here with us.